This is a Voters Decide special report, the debate for the Denver mayor's runoff race.
Hello and welcome. I'm political specialist Sean Boyd. For the next 60 minutes, we're going to talk with the two candidates in the Denver mayoral runoff, Brough and Mike Johnston. Thank you both for being here. Rules are simple for this one. You'll have 1 minute for answers, 30 seconds for rebuttals at my discretion, and we will have a lot of questions. So we're going to get right to it. We're going to start with one of the top issues in the race, homelessness. Mike, your plan is to build 1,400 additional units of housing, tiny homes and converted motels for the homeless on 10 to 20 primarily city-owned properties. But the city real estate division told me of more than 2,000 city-owned properties it's looked at for housing projects, none are available or suitable due to safety, access, size, or other issues. So where do you plan to build all these new units?
Sure. I'm glad we started there, Sean, because I think the most important part is no one in Denver should be homeless. We have a moral obligation to make sure we can get people off the streets and into shelter. And the good news is we know what actually works here. We know that if we get people access to housing that is safe and dignified and stable, they do incredibly well. They get back on their feet and they get into housing. And the benefit here is we can use all sorts of different sites. As you mentioned, we can take lots that you can put tiny homes on. We can take hotels you can convert into housing and can use safe outdoor spaces as short-term transitions. So there are plenty of options, but the benefit is it's not just the city of Denver's land. We also know Denver Public Schools is a very large landowner. We know RTD is a very large landowner. We know the State Land Board has land in and around the city of Denver. We know there are churches and schools and others that have land they could swap with Denver for different opportunities. So what we would do is convene all of those partners to look at all the possible land assets we have and then make sure we can find the right sites in the right locations to be able to get this done. And it's something that we've been able to do successfully. I know we can do again now.
So you don't have any sites identified right now?
No, I think the important part of this is that communities should be involved in those siting decisions. So what we'll do is look at all the available options, then we'll sit down with communities and say, what do we think are the best of these options that will allow us to serve people in a way that will get them back on their feet?
So I want to follow up on this. Most of the money you've identified for the construction and wraparound services that you plan to provide at these sites, the city would have to win through a competitive and potentially lengthy bidding process. So it's not guaranteed. How realistic is this?
Yeah, so there are two parts of how we pay for this program, and I think I'm very proud of the fact that actually in all of the policy proposals I've put out, I both talked about how we're going to get them done, how we pay for them, and where they come from. And so on this, there are two sources. For the actual building of units, we use federal dollars. There are about $140 million in federal money left. I've talked to the governor about this. Denver only needs about $40 million of that share to be able to build these units, so that's the one-time construction cost. We do have dollars that are used from the city right now to support homeless services, but under Proposition 123, which we helped pass last year, that's another $50 to $70 million a year the city can access, and we have the chance to apply for those right away. I was proud to be a part of the coalition that passed Prop 123, so I think Denver would be in a position to be first in line to make sure we're ready to apply for those funds, draw them down, and put them to work.
Okay. Kelly, your plan is to hire more outreach workers and set up more safe outdoor spaces for the homeless. So essentially expand on what the city is doing. But many people in encampments don't want to go to these sites right now. So why would that change? And also, where do you get the additional money?
Yeah. Sean, you know, I have had the chance to spend time at the encampments and probably even more importantly, meet with service providers throughout this region. I think the vast majority do want to get to safer locations. I think you're right. There will be some who maybe don't, but we have to get people to safer sites. Today, the living conditions are horrific. We lost 173 people last year living unhoused in our region, 269 the year before. So we have to get people to safer locations. I think working with members of council, focusing on our 11 council districts to identify where these sites could be. Because we're moving people to safer locations, we'll save the money on the sweeps that we do continually today. But also a key part of my plan is working as a region. 7 mayors in the metro area have endorsed this approach. And I think working together, this is how we can get people to safer sites and frankly improve the living conditions of both people who are unhoused, but also the neighborhoods where they're living.
So a quick follow-up for you too. Would you maybe adopt Mike's plan of building hundreds of tiny homes?
Yeah, listen, I think a tiny home, I visited one this week just to, again, it's the second time I've gone to one to refresh. You know, it has some value, but it cannot be the solution. We have, our last count has over 7,000 people unhoused. 1,400 of them unsheltered. This is not the solution for everybody who's unhoused. This is where we have to work as a region. And those state dollars, that $140 million, are going to go to the region first. Will be way more competitive, and that's why there's 3 sites in the region that I'd partner with other mayors to identify and be able to secure funding so we could use those dollars.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of this money is regional money that is going to be competitively bidded for. So you have both said that you plan to move people living in encampments somewhere else. My question is how? You know, they have the option right now of safe outdoor spaces, shelters, and in some cases, tiny homes. And the Colorado Village Collaborative, which operates many of these sites, says they have room. People are choosing not to go, choosing to move their camp maybe to the next block over. How do you change that when so far outreach workers haven't been able to? Kelly?
We definitely don't have enough sites or even shelter beds, or we don't have the right ones. Like we don't have enough for women. We don't have enough for couples or families, people with pets or partners. So this is where I think we really have to focus on moving people together who are in community living together to the other location. And I do think we'll have a lot of success. But I also think we can't leave people to fend for themselves. And I think this is where there are people who maybe because they're intoxicated or high, I still think we have an obligation to get them to a safe location like Denver Cares or some of the supports and services we have available.
Mike, same question to you, because I'm telling you, I went back and forth with the Colorado Village Collaborative, and they've got space. People aren't going.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So Kelly and I differ on this. I don't think criminalizing homelessness or arresting folks who are homeless is the right answer. I do think what we know is what people will move to depends on the quality of what's available. We do have folks who wouldn't want to go to a shelter, and that's for good reasons. Some shelters can be dangerous. There can be open-air drug use. There can be people with weapons. And so what we know, though, is when you do offer people access to dignified, safe, stable units, like a tiny home or like these hotel conversions, people jump at that in dramatic numbers. When the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless did this, they opened 300 units, and there were 850 people who were unhoused who took access, who signed up to want those units. Keep in mind, our total unsheltered count is 1,400. So that's almost 60% of the entire population who said in very short notice they would want to move to these units. Even more importantly, when people move to those units, they are incredibly successful. We found that 86% of the folks that moved to those units were still housed a year later. That's different from a tent, where you can still freeze in the middle of the night, where you can still have someone with a straight razor cut the side of your tent and steal your stuff in the middle of the night. That's part of the jeopardy people face every day in the encampments that we can solve by moving them to more dignified housing.
Maybe it's just the tiny home, the type of tiny home that's being offered, but I can tell you 25% of the tiny homes that are being done, you know, through this Village Collaborative right now, they're sitting empty. People are not taking advantage of them. I want to move on to crime. You know, another problem that the city is really wrestling with. According to the free market think tank Common Sense Institute, last year the Denver District Attorney's Office filed charges in 16% of cases referred by police. That's down from 40% in 2018. Does the DA's office play a role in the rising crime rate, and how would you address that, given you will only have control over the office's budget? Kelly?
Yeah, this is a space I've actually thought a lot about, because today, depending on who you talk to, and particularly if you talk to a police officer, they'll tell you they feel the district attorney isn't prosecuting the case. And if you talk to the district attorney, which I met with Beth McCann, she'll tell you maybe the officer isn't doing what they need him to do to be able to prosecute the case. And there's other excuses from judges. Here's what I would do. These are separately elected offices, sometimes separate branches of government with the judicial branch. I'd convene a regular meeting of people who are committed to keep our city safe. So it would be the mayor, the police chief, the manager of safety, the district attorney, the presiding judge, the president of city council. And each week I would ask, how are we doing at keeping our city safe, and whose fault is it? What do each of us need to change? So we stop pointing fingers at each other and we start delivering results for safety.
Why wouldn't they continue to point fingers at each other?
Well, I think you also get the accountability as mayor to say, here is where clearly we believe the problem is and who we need to have change.
Mike?
Yeah, here's what I would do directly. What we know is, first of all, no one can feel comfortable in a city where they don't feel safe. And right now, way too many Denver residents don't feel safe all over the city, whether it's because you've had your car stolen or your bike stolen or had a shooting in your neighborhood. We know that's a profound issue. And what we need to do is align all of these systems. So that starts all the way back with our correctional facilities, our county jails, and then judges and DAs and sheriffs. Right now, you have cops that won't ticket because they're afraid a DA won't charge, and a DA won't charge because they're afraid a judge won't sentence, and a judge won't sentence because they're not sure where they can send someone that if their major need is addiction or mental health, they're actually going to get better. And so what I would do is start by creating that space. That means taking our county jail and converting 2 pods of that, one into an inpatient mental health facility where we don't have inpatient mental health beds, and the other into an inpatient addiction-based treatment program. So now, when you have people whose primary needs are mental health or addiction, they can come through a drug court or a mental health court where someone knows they can be ticketed and they can be sentenced to actually a placement that is going to help them recover and recuperate. I think if we have that alignment, then you have judges that would act and DAs that would act and officers that would act.
I'm not sure I heard the answer to the question. Does the DA's office play a role in the increase in crime? Because these are officers who are arresting, sending them to the DA's office, and charges aren't being brought in many of the cases.
I think what they'll find is they respond to sentencing decisions by judges. So they're not going to charge a case that they don't believe a judge will sentence. And overwhelmingly, we've seen a lot of those people have those charges dropped or not be sentenced. And so it's an alignment problem between what our county jail does, what our judges do, what our DAs do, and what our officers do. I think all of those parties are on the hook, and that's why we have to align all of their agendas towards one shared goal of public safety.
Denver ranks 3rd nationally for auto thefts and 1st among major Colorado cities. Since Aurora passed a new ordinance sentencing first-time auto thieves to 60 days in jail and repeat offenders to 120 days, it's seen auto thefts drop every month. Mike, would you consider a similar policy for Denver?
I would consider it, but I think the first step is in a different direction. I think what we know we have to do first is when we talk to officers, they'll say, right now it's very hard to chase the amount of auto thefts there are because we don't have the staff they need to be able to investigate those. So often they won't be able to respond, or if they do respond, they don't have the time to be able to actually prosecute and investigate. So I think this starts with being able to restore public safety by restoring our core of officers and adding in first responders. That means we need more mental health workers to respond to people in mental health crisis, and more paramedics and EMTs to respond to folks that might be at risk of an overdose. Because right now what we know, when I've done ride-alongs with officers and talked to them, is they'll say, and many times the majority of the calls they're getting are to respond to encampments where they maybe can't be as helpful and a mental health worker would be better. And that's taking their time away from the places where we really need them on property crimes and violent crimes. So it's a matter of both staffing up and then deploying the right person to the right problem at the right time.
Kelly, do you think this is an issue of accountability?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of issues. I'll talk about technology in a ride-along I recently did, and then I also think this notion that if your car is worth less, it's not as big of a crime for you, I completely disagree with. Someone who owns a car worth less than $2,000, I would argue, maybe their life has actually been more disrupted and it's more devastating. That they maybe don't have a second vehicle, that their work requires them to be in person, they don't have the resources for Uber or Lyft, they don't have full coverage to get a vehicle replacement. So I actually agree that we have to rethink the penalties for these kinds of issues, but I also think technology is helping us get ahead as well. In the ride-along I was on, the officer had, typically an officer keys in the license plate to try to identify stolen vehicles. This had technology that just read the plates as we drove along, way more efficient. We could identify way more cars and start to have follow-up much faster. I think the combination of those kind of approaches could really help.
And I would just point out the legislature did pass that bill that now felonizes all auto thefts. And so just real quick, would you consider a policy like Aurora has adopted then?
Yeah, our biggest challenge in Denver today, I would. Okay. But our biggest challenge, Sean, is just capacity in our jails because we're so understaffed with our deputy sheriffs.
Violent crime has risen every year in Denver for the last 5 years and continues to go up this year. Brother Jeff Fard works to combat the problem, and he has this question for you.
What is your safety plan for shootings that are occurring within the city of Denver, which you will have authority and policy governance over?
Kelly, you want to answer first?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, obviously our officers respond. We have technology that is not as effective, Brother Farb. on how do we handle, identifying where the shot spotter is and issues like that. That said, I think we have to start to look at what are additional ways to take guns off streets. We know there's some gun buyback programs that are working and are effective. I think that could be one approach. But I think this prevention has to be part of what we're thinking about in terms of our kids and where we're seeing some of the violence happening. And for me, this goes back to an experience I had when I was chief of staff for John Hickenlooper. We saw increasing violence and gun violence. And instead of responding as you might traditionally respond to crime, we opened our rec centers for free for the first time that summer. We saw the gun violence go down with our youth, both as victims of crime, but also as kids committing crime. I think starting to focus on all the strategies that can help make sure our kids are making meaningful relationships, engaged in recreational opportunities, getting a good education, having access to economic opportunity, stable housing, those things make a huge difference.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, thanks, Brother Jeff, for the question. For me, the best way to keep a gun out of the hand of a 17-year-old is to, when that person is 12, help that young person find their passion and their purpose. Right? That's the best way to keep them from getting into negative peer groups. That's why I proposed expanding after-school and summer school programming to help those young people find the things that get them into positive peer groups. The other best way to keep the gun out of the hands of a 17-year-old is to make sure when a 14 or 15-year-old gets into trouble for the first time, we have significant intervention for that person that we know is at risk. When you've had your first gun-related incident as a teenager, we know your risk of hurting yourself or someone else goes up dramatically, which means now we have to provide all the wraparound services of counseling and support and family intervention. And the third is it goes to actually the way we police, which is what I want to do is move back to a system of community-based policing, where you both restore the role of our officers, but we're recruiting officers from the neighborhoods that they serve, and we're training them in strategies of community building and de-escalation. But then we're actually putting them back out on beats. They're out walking neighborhoods, talking to residents, talking to business owners, shooting hoops with the kids in the neighborhood, because then you have a chance to be present before those crimes happen and be visible. That's what I did as a school principal. When you walk the halls to keep kids from walking out of class before they do it, that's what we should do in neighborhoods.
Last year, 4 city attorneys were sworn in as special prosecutors to the U.S. Attorney's Office, specifically to address rising gun violence in the city, something former Police Chief Paul Payson says the Denver District Attorney's Office has failed to do. He says his officers were arresting a record number of felons with weapons, and the DA's office was releasing them on low or no bond. So he began referring them for federal prosecution. The city has seen almost as many murders in the first 4.5 months of this year as it did all of last year. As mayor, would you call the DA's office out publicly if there's evidence it's going easy on gun crimes? Mike?
I think I'd call out anybody who I think is going easy on gun crimes, whether that's officers that aren't charging, whether it's DAs that aren't prosecuting, whether it's judges that aren't sentencing. We've also seen plenty of examples of places where there are serious charges brought and people are walked or let out on bonds when we know they can be dangerous to people in the neighborhood. And so I do think that's an important part of it. And I do think that we have to focus on how do we think about gun crime as a broader epidemic right now, which means, yes, important policy changes matter. The legislature did some very good work this year to make it harder to get guns in the hands of people who are dangerous. But it also means us saying we have to believe there are certain expectations for behavior in the city that aren't okay anymore. And what we know is this is what happens when small crimes lead to big crimes, is when you can get your car stolen twice, as I have, or you can have regular burglaries in neighborhoods and there are no responses. Citizens notice that, and criminals also notice that. And I think what we have now is a wave of crime that has come in part because people realizing we don't have the capacity to respond to stop those crimes, and those people are getting bolder and bolder to do more.
Kelly?
Yes, I would. I would also follow up, though, to bring people together and talk about, do we have a problem with laws? Do we need to go together to change state law or city laws to try to address any issues we may have? We know we passed a whole bunch of, increased gun safety legislation. I strongly support it. Frankly, I would have liked to see us go further in the state as well. And I think what you'd see is that coalition continuing to advance how we can increase safety through legislation, but also through enforcement. There's 2 ways in the United States today, and Denver included, that are primary ways that you're at risk from a gun. One is using it to commit suicide, and the other is using it in your home with your family, and often accidental. We passed a safe storage law. I think this is part of what we have to have communication about, making sure as parents we're checking when our kids are going to someone else's home and demanding safe storage. But red flag laws, I think we have to also increase our responsibility to report and save lives. This is how my girls lost their father. And so I feel strongly about that communication strategy and engaging in increasing safety.
Kelly, you're endorsed by the Police Protective Association, which is usually against reforms in law enforcement. If there are efforts to improve policing that the union opposes, will you take its side?
No, I mean, we'll talk about the efforts and the issues, but I'll give you an example that I think is even more concrete. And I am proud to not only be endorsed by the almost 1,500 police officers we have in the city today, but I've also been endorsed by the Latino peace officers, by our deputy sheriffs and our firefighters. And for me, one of the discussions we had before they endorsed was the recent shooting that happened last summer in Lodo. And that was an example where I said publicly, I believe the grand jury got that right. And I think the police officers want a mayor who's willing to both defend and support them, but also hold us accountable, them included. And that happened before that endorsement, and it'll certainly happen again if I need to do that.
So, Mike, you're endorsed by former mayoral candidate Lisa Calderon, who supports the Democratic Socialist platform of defunding the police. Will you cut or increase the budget for the Denver Police Department?
Yeah, I've said very clearly since the beginning of the campaign that I won't cut the funding for public safety, and that remains unchanged. I'm proud of any support I bring on. No support I bring on ever changes my position or my policies or my stances. But what we know is, like, the battle on gun safety is hard, and it's going to be challenging, it's going to be difficult, and you'll lose friends over it, you know. And so I've been in these battles before. When I was in the state Senate, we had this issue around trying to pass universal background checks and high-capacity magazine bans, and there was intense opposition. We had the NRA sending in death threats. We had NRA circling the building and honking their horns to try to deny us the ability to pass those, and we stood strong. And by one vote, we're able to pass those measures and make an impact on gun safety, and we've done it over and over again in the state, and that's been important. But I think the key is you're going to want a mayor who's going to have the courage to be in those fights and stay in those fights. I was proud to support that. I think that's a difference with Kelly and I. Kelly did not support that gun safety measure, or the other ones when she was at the chamber. They did not ever weigh in on gun safety. I feel like gun safety is an issue that all of us have to weigh in on all the time, even when it's hard.
So I'm going to turn now to the issue of affordable housing. Mike, you plan to use $72 million from Proposition 123, the affordable housing ballot measure, to build 25,000 permanently affordable housing units in the city. Now, assuming the city qualifies for the money, which it doesn't currently, that's less than $3,000 per unit. The city's Department of Housing Stability told me a unit of income-restricted housing right now costs more than $300,000 on average. So $72 million doesn't even come close. Where do you get the rest of the money?
Yeah, so first of all, we know core issue here is right now one of the biggest problems the city faces is we have 80% of our teachers and nurses and firefighters who can't afford to live in this city tonight. That means this is an existential problem we have to solve right away. To do this requires combining all the resources we have. It means using the federal resources we have through things like CHAFA that currently funds part of those units. It means using the city resources that we're deploying through HOST and others to build more of those units. And it means adding in new Proposition 123 dollars to help accelerate the construction of those units. And what we find is in a lot of these deals, what is missing is a small amount of bridge financing to make it possible for a deal to pencil, particularly if you have a project like the ones we're supporting where they're mixed income. You might have 100 units in a project, 70% of them might be market rate units. There might only be 20 or 30 that are affordable units. But the ability to build an integrated income development like this allows you to use a smaller amount of dollars to leverage a larger amount of return. That's why what we've done with Prop 123 dollars are use CHAFA financing, which has been predictable, very successful, to be able to finance a part of these units together with the units the city's already building, about 1,000 a year, and the ones that we can add with additional federal dollars.
Kelly? I'm sorry. Sorry, I've got a different question for you, actually. You've said you will increase affordable housing by having the city or a nonprofit partner take out long-term leases on blocks of rental units, then guarantee rent and help prevent evictions. The city says it cannot legally enter into leases for affordable housing, so you would need a nonprofit partner. I have a few questions. Have you identified a partner, first of all? How many leases do you have any apartments in mind that you might block lease? And how do you pay for this?
Yeah. Denver Housing Authority is actually the entity for the city that I think would be most appropriate if it wasn't a nonprofit partner. But I think I have not identified a nonprofit partner, but Denver Housing Authority would be top of my list for this potential. Today, Denver spends $254 million to address homelessness. That's $250 million. And what we know is it's way less expensive to actually prevent people from becoming unhoused than to deal with the cost when they do and the trauma. I think the estimate today is about $30,000 to $50,000 per person who's unhoused in our city. And so instead, by focusing on how do you take that money and instead use it to keep someone housed in other cities, what you'll see is the cost is as low as $1,000 per person per year. And this is underwriting when they can't make a month's rent just to keep them there. And in one city, Charlotte, North Carolina, I found the nonprofit, and this is the model I would use here, where the private sector is coming together to help fund and underwrite those costs. Because about 40% of the people unhoused in our city today have jobs.
How many leases?
Yeah, I don't have a number yet.
Okay. Does the property tax proposal, Prop HH, that the legislature referred to voters in November do enough to address skyrocketing property taxes? What else would you do as mayor? Also, Prop HH will mean taxpayers will receive hundreds of millions of dollars less in Tabor refunds each year. Start with Kelly.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think those Tabor refunds, we now have like a list of, from Prop 123 to the Homestead Act to education that's taking those funds. So yes, I'm okay with that. That said, I still think we have a real challenge. And one of the challenges is even with that assistance, particularly our elderly who are on fixed incomes, I think the city, and what I'll do as soon as I get in office, is look at the fund we have. There's the Homestead Act, which is the state that provides assistance for elderly in terms of the property tax. But the city has a fund. It's based on need. And I'm almost confident it's probably not enough. And I think we have to look at that fund based on what our residents are currently making and how high our property taxes went up. And I think we probably have to consider our small businesses, commercial properties in this category as well. And that's one of the things I'd do initially to assess how we could assist with the kind of increase we saw this year.
Mike, same questions to you. Prop HH, does it go far enough? Would you do something else? And then also, are you okay with those Tabor refunds being reduced?
I mean, what we know from talking to voters across Denver is costs are way too high, and that's true across multiple fronts. It's true for people that are paying for rent or their mortgage. It's true for the cost of utilities. It's true for the cost of gas and groceries. So people are getting hit from all sides, and we have to find a way to relieve that cost. That's one of the reasons why the focus on affordable housing is so important, because if you can get someone into an affordable unit, you can drop their cost $1,000 or more a month. That's a big savings for families. But for folks that are already in homes and have property taxes they're paying, I think the legislature took a good step to refer to the ballot this November a measure to reduce property taxes. I support it. I think it's the right way to spend those resources, and I'm okay with them coming from Tabor refunds. That's what Tabor asked us to do, is ask voters to approve it. If voters approve it, then that's the right allocation. I do think we also want to keep a real eye towards equity. We know that not all homeowners are in the same position here. There are some that have the capacity to take increases. There are some that don't, like those that are seniors on fixed incomes and spent their whole life saving for a mortgage they thought they could pay. And if the property taxes skyrocket, they're at risk of being pushed out of that home. So I think that's where we have to spend our time and resources, making sure we can provide additional supports to those families that will be most at risk by these costs.
Okay, thanks. Suzanne Arkle owns a small business in the Lowry neighborhood, and she has a business-related question.
What are your plans or vision to improve upon economic opportunities, specifically within the small, minority, and women-owned business community and workforce?
Mike, your plan.
Great to see Suzanne again. It's like all of our friends coming back on TV. So two parts. One is how do we support small businesses in growing? And the other is how do we support workers in getting access to the skills they need for the jobs that are out there? Right now, what we know is we don't do a good job as a city actually supporting small businesses and launching, particularly businesses led by women and people of color. And so I would reverse the way we approached it previously, which is to say the city should be the first supporter. We should come in quickly and come in aggressively to support these small businesses, not just because they're going to succeed themselves, themselves, but because they'll add life back to neighborhoods where we want to see businesses and restaurants and bars grow. And so I would make that a top priority. I would also not just bring our own dollars. I would work with the philanthropic community. I would work with other outside investors to say, these are priority investments the city's making. We want to bet on these entrepreneurs of color, and we want you to do the same. The second part is we do have a great number of open jobs, and we have a lot of people that can't get access to those jobs. I would expand a work training program where you could get access to workforce training without paying the upfront costs of that training, which often keeps people out of starting the training. Now they could get trained, and only if they get placed into a job that pays them $40,000 a year or more do they actually have to pay back some of the cost.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, I love this question because I've spent time meeting and talking with small businesses throughout our city. And of course, at the Chamber, I was responsible for running a small business development center, and we were recognized as best in the nation for just this work, Suzanne. Some of the things that are really clearly causing challenges today are some of the city's bonding requirements that are completely removing some of our smallest businesses and startups from being able to compete for work. Our MBE, minority and women-owned business enterprises, we have a very complicated process people go through to get the qualification, and it allows you to compete or be a sub with large contractors. I think we could simplify that process, but I also think we could make it one process for CDOT, for DPS, for the city, for RTD, so that when you're qualified, you're in across the board and you can start to have that work. I'm going to jump to the job training. One of the areas I'm particularly interested in, I met with the superintendent of DPS and some school board members to talk about, is shifting our school model to have paid apprenticeships and internships, where our kids are earning and learning like we do in Arupe High School, 2 days a week with us, filling jobs that we critically need, but also learning skills and developing career plans in a future.
Thank you. The next question is from our debate partner, Claro, the Colorado Latino Leadership Advocacy and Research Organization. Its mission is to empower leadership development, advocacy, and policy research. Preliminary data shows that DPS is more segregated than ever. What is the city's role in addressing segregation in DPS, and what can you as mayor do to address gentrification that is contributing to school segregation? Kelly?
Yeah, I think some of the most important decisions we're going to make around the issues we see of our city not being as diverse, and not even our city overall is not as diverse. We are growing whiter and wealthier, and I just don't think that's a sustainable city for us. But there's real strategies here. This is about land use, and one of my strategies for affordability is to actually build on publicly owned surface lots, and DPS would be part of this strategy. I again met with school board members and the superintendent to talk about how you could build a for sale condo that allows families who have not been able to own homes to start to own homes in neighborhoods throughout our city. Their kids can access schools they never could have gotten to, and we start to really build the social capital and the diversity neighborhood by neighborhood. But in terms of gentrification, I think there's a lot of things we can do. Some of them are, instead of just giving permission to build an accessory dwelling unit, that we actually assist people in doing it so they can stay in their home, stay in their neighborhood. So we do the design, we help with, yeah, you get the idea.
Thank you.
I'm being respectful on the time.
Mike, can you address this segregation issue?
Yeah, this is where a city and a school district need to collaborate to take on plans like this together, because what we know is school segregation is a direct reflection of neighborhood segregation. And so when we see access to affordable housing disappearing from neighborhoods, we also see diversity disappearing from those same neighborhoods. And so this is why we have to have a coordinated plan to say, what are the school zones in this neighborhood, and how do we work to make sure that there's all types of housing stock available in that same neighborhood. So that would mean as we look at school openings or school closures, we're planning together with the district. Here is the opportunity for us to build more housing and to build it close to a school where we don't have the right amount of balance of diversity by income or by racial background. And there are a lot of cities who have given in to not doing that. Denver ought to be a city where we can say, by a long-term commitment to housing that's affordable, we can also make a long-term commitment to schools that are integrated and to communities that feel like they represent the full balance of Denver. A key part of that for me is focusing on home ownership and making sure that families, particularly families of color, can get access to home ownership, which I hope I'll get to talk about more from some of the efforts I've been working on.
Thank you. Jim Garcia with Tepeyac Community Health has a question for you about disparities in healthcare that the pandemic in particular has highlighted.
Latinos continue to be disproportionately affected by the recent pandemic and other health equities. what specific strategies will you implement as mayor to promote health equity within Denver's Latino community and our community as a whole?
Mike, your strategies.
Thanks, Jim. Good to see you. For me, this is where the social determinants of health are so important. We know the health outcomes are reflective of a whole series of other issues that start before that, like access to high-quality education, access to stable housing, access to healthy food available in your neighborhood, and yes, access to health care, just like the one that Jim built with Clinic of Tepeyac up in North Denver, where you have a community-based project that provides housing, also provides access to health, will also provide access to key other social services. I think Jim has found the model for how we want to think about doing more of this, which is making sure you can integrate high-quality health care into the rest of someone's lived environment. Another great example of this is the Dahlia Center up in North Park Hill, close to where I had my office for 10 years. Lydia Prado and others who built that created a mental health access opportunity where it's a community-based center that has a child care center, has food bank, has access to after-school programming, but also has mental health services right on site. So someone can walk down the street, walk in the door to where they take their kid to child care, and also get access to mental health.
Thank you. Kelly?
Probably the key, Jim, is that we put Tepeyac in every neighborhood that we can. But I'm going to start with access. This is key, is making sure that our Latino and Latina communities have access to health care. A key partner in my mind is going to be Denver Health in this work. There's no question our school-based clinics can help and assist with that access, ensuring both mental and physical health supports are being provided to our kids. I think Children's Hospital this last year declared a mental health crisis for our kids in this city. And so I think this is critical that we don't separate these issues anymore. The other opportunity, I think, with Denver Health is to look at where do we have the clinics and how are we providing access. I'm concerned about some of the transitions we're going to see of people losing qualification for coverage for the health care they get today. And I think this is going to be key space that the next mayor needs to step into. My hope is Jim will get the chance to work together to do that work and ensure that we're providing the access and support and health care that our communities need.
Thank you. I'm going to take a break from asking the questions and allow you each to ask each other a question. And based on a coin flip, Kelly, you're up first.
Hey, thank you, Sean. We have been on a stage a lot together.
We have.
I want to highlight a few things that I've heard you say and then ask a question. So we were asked at one point who has accepted money from the developer who did the Park Hill Golf Course. Neither of us raised our hand, but later it came out that you had received funding from that developer. You were asked about COVID check, and you said you led the work. Later on, the woman who led the work said on TV that she felt you were taking credit for work she and her team did. You mentioned on a stage, Michael, that you did full day K, that you led the work on that. But you were a candidate for U.S. Senate during that time when Polis was leading that work. You also said that for 8 years, I think you were a senator in our state, and you never sponsored a single piece of legislation on gun safety, but you said you've led on gun safety and taken the NRA on twice and won. My question is, how do we know when you're telling us the truth?
Great, I'm happy to answer all those. Let me know how much time I have.
30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. So I'll start with the top one, which is COVID check. Let's talk about our work on COVID check, this was a scenario where it was the summer of 2020. Schools were closed. We were worried about whether or not kids could get back to school, and we knew to reopen schools, we had to be able to give teachers access to regular testing. So we at Gary started an organization called COVID Check to be able to offer teachers regular access to COVID testing. We brought on 100 different partners. We provided more than 100,000 tests across the region and the state to help all those schools reopen, and that was very successful. It was the difference between those schools opening or not. We did that through November and December, and then when it was time for the state to try to figure out how to scale this kind of testing statewide, they came to us to ask us to be partners, and we were delighted to be partners in scaling that work we started for schools to be available to folks across the state. Together with a lot of public partners, private partners, and our foundation, we were able to then help test and vaccinate more than 1.5 million Coloradans. I think that's a great success and a great example of a public-private partnership, and a great example of where the work I've described is exactly what the work that's been done. And you'll see op-eds from people that worked with us, like Mario Nicolay or the head of the CDPHE, who will all attest to that same great partnership.
I think there are a few other questions there, but it's your turn to ask the question now.
Great. I'll just stay with one simple one, which is we've talked a lot about affordability tonight and how we make Denver affordable for people to live. One of those needs is to make sure we have access to affordable housing. The other one is to make sure people have access to a livable wage. And I think on this one, this is why I have repeatedly supported the effort to increase minimum wage. But you opposed efforts to increase the minimum wage, not just once or twice or 3 times, but 4 different times, when what was being considered was moving the minimum wage from $11 an hour to $13 an hour. That would mean that a Denver resident working full-time, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, would make $26,000 a year. And I don't know why you think $26,000 a year would be too much to pay someone in Denver when we know that's not enough to live in Denver.
Yeah, I don't at all. As a matter of fact, we have automatic increases in our minimum wage today. And I think that is critically important, and I support it. I think what you're referring to is my work at the Chamber of Commerce, where I represented 3,000 businesses, and those positions are part of what the Chamber takes as for their positions. And my job was to represent those, and I did. And what I'll do for Denver residents is represent them as their mayor, making sure they get the wages they need to be able to live and make a home in our city.
Thank you. We're going to move on now. It's no secret Broncos management is considering whether to renovate Mile High or build a new stadium somewhere else. Have you talked to the new ownership group? And how far would you go to keep the stadium in Denver? Would you ask voters to approve a new tax if necessary? See, it's a different question, right, Kelly?
Yeah. I have not talked with the owners, but I strongly feel it's not the Broncos without Denver, and it's not Denver without the Broncos. And so I look forward to that conversation. And frankly, I don't know what the needs are or where we may end up, but I do think it's really important to be transparent and that no deals be cut behind the scenes, and that if we do need resources, that voters get a vote and decide if they want to do that.
Mike?
I have not talked to the owners, but I would say over my dead body would they leave the city of Denver. I feel like this is one where it's in all of our core identity about the city. It's a huge part of our shared history together, and they have to stay. I also think we can look at where they build. I would love to see the stadium stay on the west side of Denver also. That's been a key part of the growth of that region and has a lot of opportunity for how it continues to evolve economically. And so we did it once where we built a new stadium on the same footprint next door when we took down Mile High. I'd like to think that we can do it again.
Yes or no? Would you consider asking voters for a tax increase if necessary to keep the stadium here?
I don't think we need to. I don't think we need to. And when we've looked at the stadiums that have been built over the last 5 or 10 years, almost all of them, including the ones that the Cronkies just built in LA, did not require taxpayer dollars. So I think we should be able to build this one without them.
Yeah, I think we wait and see, Sean.
Okay. Pandemic relief money is running out. Emergency assistance for migrants is skyrocketing. And the city's budget process is well underway. 1, what are your funding priorities for 2024, since you will be coming into the conversation late? And 2, where will you make budget cuts to address anticipated shortfalls, especially in light of the increased demand on resources that has been caused by this influx of migrants? Mike?
Thank you. I know that Denver has been a city of immigrants for a long time, and we are proud of the fact that we're a welcoming city. There are also ways for us to go about this better that can both serve those people that are migrants and also not cut into the city's budget. And so what I would do here is I would figure out how we can partner with the various agencies around the state and the country that are facing this challenge. We know 75, 80% of the migrants who are coming to Denver are not trying to get to Denver. They're actually trying to get to someplace else, and they're a way station here along the way. We ought to be able to coordinate better with the places where they're starting to be able to help redirect them to a final destination rather than a stayover. I also think we have to take this on as a city. This is not just the city of Denver's obligation. I know we have faith communities, we have nonprofits, we have people in all various roles in the city that would want to do their part. We can help control a lot of those costs if we're not paying rent at a hotel every night for someone to go. If we do have available space, we have places we can partner, and we have cities around the region. I would talk to all the neighboring mayors and cities, to Colorado Springs and Grand Junction and Fort Collins and Lakewood and Aurora, and say, we know this is a statewide need. Can you help us meet this statewide need so that we don't carry all of those costs ourselves?
You know, I've listened to Mayor Hancock beg for help. Kelly, I want you to address this too. Yeah. There are anticipated shortfalls in the budget right now. So where are your priorities and where would you make cuts if necessary?
Yeah, there's no question. The city has spent, I think, $20 million thus far by the end of this month to manage this issue, and frankly, I think we should be proud of how we're doing and trying to take it on, but it is not sustainable. There's no question about that. Here's the challenge with the feds. You know, you see Mayor Hancock begging the feds to pay us some of the resources. That's not working great. I'm sure other cities are in the same challenge we're in this regard. I've not talked with other mayors yet in the region on this particular issue. I would ask for their help for sure. But I think the primary has to be to first break out of the situation we find ourselves in. And that means people who are here seeking asylum, and we know it's going to take at least 18 months, we need to let them work. And my priority would be help them get to work so that we don't have this challenge of the city taking it on. And then with regard to the city's budget, about 70% of the city's budget is personnel, people. So every single decision you make when it comes to prioritizing this is going to have to look at what are the services that we need to keep and what are the services that we make a lower priority. I'm not going to talk about that today because that's pretty disruptive to the city team.
All right. Mario Carrera, with our debate partner, Claro, has a question now regarding the incoming city council and diversity.
This next administration will have at least 6 Latinas as members of the City Council. What does that say to you about the thirst for Latino representation in our community?
Kelly, want to respond?
I say first, it just makes me so happy, Mario, to see the representation like that, and frankly, the kind of leadership. Listen, the president of City Council is a Latina. The president pro tem is a Latina. I think this is incredible leadership, and I'd be thrilled and excited to work with them.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I think this is a really exciting moment in the city's history. And what we've seen is that this is a voice that has not been heard as strongly at the city as people want it to be. And I think the voters realize that. They want to see more representation of what is the largest minority group in the city and county of Denver. I think historically they've been underrepresented in city leadership. I would want to have a very diverse cabinet and leadership team that includes many Latino and Latina voices. I also have gotten the chance to meet with many of those city council members, and I'm really excited to partner with them. Y también hablo español. Ayuda también.
Thank you. So trash pickup has been an issue in the city for the last 6 months. Sometimes it's not picked up until 3 to 4 days after the scheduled pickup. Mike, as mayor, how will you get this under control?
Yeah, this is one where I think we need to have both a clear sense of how you execute against targets that matter. Yes, there are big ideas we have to talk about in this race, like how do we take on the big challenges of homelessness or the big challenges of affordability or the big challenges of public safety. But it is also about having a mayor that you expect that does the little things, which are making sure that trash pickup comes on time. And so for me, the way I've led always is you have a clear set of big goals, then you have what I call objectives and key results, which is you're tracking every day. What are the metrics the city is generating? How often are we picking up trash? How often are we late? And then how do we publicly make that dashboard available? So it's not something we're just hiding ourselves. It's something we're sharing. I used to, when I was CEO, I'd have written on giant glass on my door all the deliverables I'd committed to for the week. And at the end of every week, I'd give myself a percentage score, how many of those I actually delivered. And that was public to everyone on my team. I think as a leader, you have to be very public about what you're committing to doing and how the voters can hold you accountable for what you've delivered. So that's the kind of dashboard I would build as a mayor to make sure everyone knows how we're doing.
Okay. Kelly?
Yeah, I think this is one of those where we, made people doubly angry, right? We said, hey, we're going to start to charge you for it, and then service went down. And so we really have to focus on how much of it was about the transition of the new barrels. And by the way, did you get your new barrel? That small one is very small, but I'm doing okay. And so this is where I think we have now some new contractors picking up trash with us. I think people probably don't know the routes like they need to know the routes. I think this is the nuts and bolts of management. This is where you got to have a mayor you totally trust. She is capable of hiring the team and executing on the day-to-day work. And how I think about government, and I think our city employees think about it, is you actually know the day of the week because we're so consistent in picking up your trash. You know when we're going to do it. You even know what time we're going to be there. And we'll get back to there under my administration.
All right, thanks. The next mayor will be involved in renegotiating the city's contract with Xcel, which only happens every 50 years. Kelly, can you name one provision you specifically want included that is not included now?
Well, it's probably more of a prioritization of a provision that's in there, and it's the transition that we need to make to address climate. And the provision specifically, though, would be around how we think about ratepayers paying for it and making sure that burden is not being placed on our households in a manner that is not sustainable. And so that's probably where I would really focus a lot of the energy in that negotiation.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
For me, the top priority here is about one, reducing costs, and two, accelerating our push towards a more renewable energy. And I think what we know is there are ways to do those together, because oftentimes some of the increasing costs we've seen over the last couple of years have also come from the increased and the fluctuating prices of natural gas. And so those have to be the top two priorities, and we want a partner that can accelerate our work in doing that. I got to work in the legislature on some of the first efforts at renewable portfolio standards to move the state aggressively towards it, and Excel was a good partner on moving ahead of schedule and aggressively to want to deliver that outcome. I think we should be able to be the model for Denver of cities that can both thrive economically, that can make really deep commitments to making our city greener, and can make sure and keep our city affordable by keeping costs low. And I'd also look at things like, how can we deploy renewable energy into neighborhoods where they're suffering the most from those high costs? So that means things like community solar gardens. Those of us that can afford to put them on our roofs, great. If you can't, you can put community solar gardens in those neighborhoods that are struggling to pay those bills. And the offset of that electricity that's generated actually reduces the bills of those neighborhoods that are struggling the most.
Thank you. Ernest House is a member of the Ute Mountain Ute tribe and has a question for both of you about past and present Indigenous Coloradans.
Throughout history, Denver has been the crossroads for many cultures, starting with numerous tribal nations. If elected, how will your administration acknowledge the displacement while still recognizing today's American Indian citizens and youth?
Mike, your response?
Thank you, Ernest. I feel like I get to talk to people, but they're not quite there to talk back. So this is a part of a deep American injustice that every American government has the obligation to help repair. And we know that we're only now beginning to face the very hard truths of what the state has done, what the city has done. And I think that always starts with being honest, by saying here are the places where we know we violated trust. Even the very founding of the city of Denver was built on a broken agreement with Native Americans. And so I think we need to be able to be honest about what those damages were, how we can talk about repairing them, and what the opportunities are to invest in the descendants of those leaders who are still having difficulty being able to own homes, being able to get access to college or workforce training, being able to get access to the investment in a small business they're going to need to try to build something for their own family. I think we need to prioritize those places where we've historically failed to invest in our communities that we have discriminated against the most, to make sure we can prioritize reinvesting in them now.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, thanks, Ernest. It's good to see you. My kids are biracial. They're Ojibwe and white. This is a huge part of my family's identity, and I'm grateful that I got to learn from my husband some of the cultural experience, frankly, in my life. For me, I measured this issue based on outcomes, not just opportunity, but outcomes. This is where we know today our Indigenous kids do not get the same educational outcomes as other kids. We know today home ownership is less likely to go to college. I would look at all the steps we need to take to ensure our Indigenous community has access and actually achieves the opportunities we're trying to put in place. And I'll give you a concrete example where I've already done this in my life. At MSU Denver, I got to be part of the team that made MSU Denver the first institution in the state of Colorado where Indigenous students go for free. That's exactly how I'll work as your mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to try and keep this answer for this question to 30 seconds. A lack of coordination on construction projects around the city has led in some cases to key roads being closed during rush hour and on weekends while equipment sits idle. Kelly, what is your plan to minimize the disruption while repairing critical infrastructure?
When I worked with the Hickenlooper administration, this was a challenge then too. Often we're coordinating with other entities like Denver Water, Excel, the city. And we just created a system where you're coordinating so that you're digging once, you're in the ground once, trying to put in whatever pipe, line, fiber that you need to do to minimize the disruption and to speed up the results to get the construction done.
Okay. Mike?
For me, this is about structuring a city who sees its primary purpose as delivering customer service to our residents. And that means being mindful of, if you have a business on that street and you're trying to have a good weekend of sales, someone leaving equipment out front of your door for 2 days is a major impact on your bottom line for the week. If you're someone that's trying to open a new patio for your craft brewery, 5-6 month delay on being able to do that is a massive impact on your ability to pay employees and keep your business open. We have to recreate a culture that is fundamentally about customer service and trying to find a way to get to yes for Denverites who need us.
Thank you. All right, that's all the time we have for questions. Now to final statements, with the order again to be determined by a coin toss. And Mike, I think you're first.
Thank you. I had a mentor when I first became a school principal who used to say, when you're in a hard situation, there are only two things you can offer: truth and hope. That means looking at the hard truths of where you are, but in the middle of those hard truths, not losing track of the real hope about what's possible. We know Denver has some hard truths right now. We know that tonight, 80% of the teachers and nurses and firefighters who serve the city can't afford to live here. We know that tonight, we've had not just 1 or 2, but 3 shootings at one of our flagship high schools in 1 year. We know that tonight there are still 1,400 people who are homeless on the streets trying to find a place to live. But the hope is that we know these are each solvable problems. We know because we've taken on big problems before and we've delivered historic results. We've done that together on things like universal preschool and affordable housing and gun safety and immigration reform. None of these problems are too big. If we have a city committed to saying we believe in what's possible, and Denver will always come together and work together to find a way forward. That's the city I want back, and that's the city I want to help build with you, and I'd love to have your support.
Thank you. Kelly.
Thanks, Sean. You know, every beautiful thing I have in my life came because I chose Denver as my home. And we know today we're not living up to our potential in our city. We've talked tonight about all the challenges we face, but I also see the incredible potential in our future with the right leadership. And while I've never run for office before, I have run the city. I was John Hickenlooper's chief of staff when he was mayor of Denver. That means I was responsible for the day-to-day operations, for building the budget and managing to it, for overseeing the 10,000 employees and supporting their work, delivering results for you. I've also been the head of the HR for the city of Denver, and I really do understand the city culture and the city team, and frankly, I love them. And I would love to go back and be part of it. But having never run, one of the things that really stands out to me are the number of people who come forward and say, Kelly, we see your leadership. We believe in you too. We want you in this role. We need you today. Like former Mayor Wellington Webb and former Representative Wilma Webb, or the former governor of the state of Colorado, Bill Ritter, or the almost 1,500 police officers in our city who've endorsed me, the Denver Fire Department, the Denver Deputy Sheriffs, the Greater Ministerial Alliance, over 40 Black churches, over 14 members of the Denver City Council, both former and current, 7 mayors in the metro area. I share this with you because I trust them too, that they're saying I'm ready. Now I'm asking you to endorse me as well. I'm asking for your vote. I would love to get to work and make Denver a city that works for all of us. And Denver, I love you.
All right. Thank you both for participating. What is this, like our 4th?
Oh my gosh,
Forum
Sean,
debate,
you're sick of us.
Right. I think you're sick of me. I think we've got another one after this, too. For all of you, if you tuned in a little bit late, we have the full debate. It will be on our website, so you can see it there. I will also be putting the highlights of the debate on our 10 o'clock news tonight if you want to tune in. If you live in Denver, you should have your ballot by now. It needs to be turned in by June 6th. And this is one of several debates and forums that I've moderated, so you can find them all on CBS Colorado YouTube channel and all of my reporting at cbscolorado.com. Have a nice evening, everybody.